Welcome to another Fantasy Goodfellas video where we talk about the start, flex, sit for Week 10 on running backs. You ready?
Those Fantasy Goodfellas.
Rolling on the field.
Those Fantasy Goodfellas.
All right, before we get started, we're going to look at our stat machine to see who they are saying to start, flex, or sit. So we've computed all this into our database, and now we're going to talk about it. So Arizona Cardinals versus the Seattle Seahawks. Right now, we have every running back is a sit for this matchup. Now that's surprising, but if you look here, Seattle has the 4th ranked rushing defense. Arizona has the 14th ranked. It's a second tier. But what we're looking at is that's what they're saying. Sit DeMarcado, Knight, and then sit Walker. You know, the running back median for this week is 13.2. You have to be greater than that. So that's our number here. Now for the next matchup, we have the Atlanta Falcons versus the Indianapolis Colts. They said go ahead and start Bijan Robinson. He's averaging the last 2 games 11.7. His season average is 21.10, but his opponent's given up 20.2, so he's above that threshold. At Indianapolis, obviously you're going to start Jonathan Taylor. He's your league leader, but his last 2 games is 22.5, where his season average is 24.7. And then he's going against a weak Atlanta Falcons rush defense. They also say to go ahead, and because of that defense, you might want to flex Abdullah. So something to pay attention to. Let's go to our next matchup here, which is going to be Baltimore Ravens versus the Minnesota Vikings. Obviously, you're going to start Derrick Henry. What's he done? His last 2 game average is 16.10. His season average is 13.1. So that's got inflated a little bit. But Minnesota does boast a good rush defense, number 8. And they're saying to go ahead and sit Aaron Jones. I don't even know if he'll be playing. Jordan Mason and Xavier Scott. So let's go to the next matchup here is Buffalo Bills versus the Miami Dolphins. Obviously, you have to start James Cook. His last 2 game average is 23.5. His season average is 18.9, almost 19 points. So they're saying to go ahead and start him. Whereas Devon Achane, he is a start, but Ollie Gordon's a sit. And there's some of your other sits this week. You know, just as Miami's rush defense is only ranked 28th. That's not too good. But that's why James Cook is going to have a huge game. Whereas Buffalo's a second-tier rush defense. They're 18th. Now, our next matchup here is, waiting for that to load here, is the Carolina Panthers versus the New Orleans Saints. They got a start on Rico Dowdle. They got a flex on Chuba Hubbard. And then Trevor Etienne's a sit. Whereas Alvin Kamara, obviously he can explode. So you always have to look at who you have. But he's your best option there for the New Orleans Saints. Obviously he's got the pedigree to do well. But the New Orleans defense is ranked 22nd against the run, whereas the Carolina Panthers are ranked 23rd. So let's go to our next matchup here, which is going to be the Chicago Bears versus the New York Giants. This week they got a start on pretty much all 3 running backs, probably because the New York Giants have such a poor rush defense. Now, I don't expect all of these to do well, but at least gives you an idea of what you're looking at here. So Swift, Montague, and Brown are all starts here, Chicago Bears. And then you got Tyrone Tracy's a sit, Singletary and Williams, they're all sits because the Chicago defense is pretty tough. They're ranked 12th. Let's go to our next matchup here. We have the Cleveland Browns versus the New York Jets. They got a Quinshon Judkins. He's a start. Sampson's a start. Let's look at the last 2 games. You got Sampson. He's averaging 7.9. He's ahead of his season average. Where you got Quinshon Judkins, he's below his season average is 13.8. So, but they are going against the New York Jets. That's only ranked 15th against the defense, so there might be opportunities for both running backs there. I think Cleveland has a strong defense. They're ranked 2 against the rush. And you got Breece Hall. He's starting to heat up. Last 2 games, he's averaging 28.7. His season average is 13.36. But his opponent's tough, so it actually brings down his totals. And then you got Isaiah Davis right on that bubble. Could be a flex position, but you got his last 2 games is 15.9. Season average is 4.58. So you can see his last 2 games is above his season average. So you might want to pay attention to those matchups there. But there's some opportunities here. Here, the next matchup, Denver Broncos versus the Las Vegas Raiders. You got to start on RJ Harvey. He's got last 2 games is 20.35. He's heating up because his season average is 10.68, whereas opponents are giving up 27.75. You got J.K. Dobbins with the start because he is just below his season average, so he's pretty steady, I would say, the last 2 games versus his season average. But he is going against the Las Vegas Raiders, who only have 21. They're only 21st against the rush, whereas the Denver Broncos are ranked 10th. And then you got a start on Ashton Genty. His last 2 games is 19.9. His season average is 14.5. So he's heating back up. In my mind, there's some opportunities in that matchup. The not number 10, Detroit Lions versus the Washington Commanders. So obviously, if you got David Montgomery, he's kind of consistent here. His last 2 games is 11 points. His season average is 11.39. He is going against the Washington Commanders, who are giving up 20.97. You also got Jahmyr Gibbs. He's dropped off a little bit, so he's way below the last 2 games, way below his season average. I think the Detroit Lions are struggling right now. I expect them to get back into it, but right now, those 2 players are especially Gibbs is struggling, but they are going against the Washington Commanders, who are the 24th against the rush, whereas the Detroit is number 3 against the rush. Now, this is Chris Rodriguez. He's been doing pretty good. Jeremy McNichols, he's doing good, and Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, he slipped a little bit. So you got like a 3-headed monster there in Washington Commanders. Now that Jaden Daniels is out, it might rely a lot more on rush. So even though you see sits on these players, you might want to consider them, at least Chris Rodriguez. The next matchup is Green Bay Packers versus the Philadelphia Eagles. This is an interesting matchup. You got Josh Jacobs. Obviously, if you have him, you're going to start him. There's no question there. But his last 2 games is a little bit below his season average. He is going against the Eagles defense, which is 19th against the rush. Then you have Saquon Barkley. You got to start on him, and nobody else has a start. But the last 2 games, he's exploded. His season average is 15.98. He is going against the Green Bay Packers, which has a strong 9th-ranked rush defense. And our next matchup is Houston Texans versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. You know, there's been Woody Marks has seen some spots lately. I mean, throughout the season, he hasn't really done much of late. Nick Chubb might have had a touchdown this season. Not much there. But you do have the Jacksonville Jaguars. They got to start on Travis Etienne. He's a little bit above his season average the last 2 games. So he's kind of warming up a little bit. And Tutin, he is above his average a little bit. He is going against Houston Texans, which on paper is a strong rush defense. And that's our starts and sits for that. Then you have the Los Angeles Chargers versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. And this could be the week that Kamani Vidal, he can get going. I know he's right around 9.32. His last 2 games is slightly above that at the 12.65 is what we're expecting from him. But that Pittsburgh defense is tough. They're 6th ranked, whereas the Los Angeles Chargers are ranked 27th. I expect a big game from Jaylen Warren. Even though there's a sit on Kenneth Gainwell, I think Gainwell can get into the end zone depending on how those line up. Now let's go to our next matchup, the Los Angeles Rams versus the San Francisco 49ers. Here you got Kyren Williams. He's starting to warm up a little bit. He's got 17.4 average the last 2 games. His season average is 15.9. He's going against San Francisco, which has a soft rush defense at ranked 25th, where you got Christian McCaffrey going against the number 1 rush defense. So we know McCaffrey can get into the end zone in the air. He's a receiver out there, but I think Christian McCaffrey can have a good game, even though that rush defense is bad. So we already know he's got the talent. The question is can Brian Robinson Jr. do anything? You got to sit on that, but you never know how these stats work out. And then our last matchup is the New England Patriots versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And interesting enough, you got a start on Travion Henderson. Even though he's averaged 9.1 the last 2 games, they're giving him a start over there. And I think it's because the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense is only ranked 17th. So there are some opportunities there, whereas New England has a strong rush defense, and you got no starts even on Rachaad White. So that is the matchups for this week. And that is going to do it for this week's Start, Flex, Sit on running backs for Week 10. Don't forget, anything can go. There's about 19 different teams each week that gets their running backs in those rankings. And like always, don't forget to like and subscribe, and good luck on this week's fantasy football.